Going back more than a year ago, when the governor was locking us down and using tyrannical authority against us, which later the Supreme Court even said was too much. You know, a lot of us were pissed off and complaining about it, but there were a few of us, and a gentleman in particular, that was doing something about it. And for a man who is not in politics, a man who was is a chiropractor, he saw that things were out of alignment. And he did something about it. And the whole unlock thing and all that really has an origin of a man that was behind it. So I really don't need to this crowd introduce Garrett Soldano, because I think you guys know who he is.
All right, well, we're just going to get this party started right now. Good evening, my fellow Michiganders. Good evening, my fellow Americans. So I have to ask this question, because as we go around the state now, there is some people that have never even heard of who I am, what our movement's about, the power of the people, and everything else. So please, if there's anybody in this room, if this is the first time you've heard me speak, raise your hand, please. This is great. Okay? Hey, everybody give them a round of applause for being here. I have to go through the story, and I know there's a lot of people in this room that have already heard this story. They probably can tell the story better than I can. You know, those of you who've been following me ever since the beginning. But we really have to go back to the beginning so they can feel the power of our movement, so they can feel the passion, because it is my goal as the leader of this movement that you're going to leave here tonight feeling inspired. You're going to have hope. You are literally going to leave here tonight feeling like a better American. That's what's going to happen. That is my goal, and that's what I come to speak in front of all of you. So if you would have told me a year and a half ago that I'd be in front of you right now, running for governor, I would have laughed you right out of the room, never wanted anything to do with this horrible, evil game called politics, right? Until April 9th. When the governor brought down her tyrannical hammer and started taking away our constitutional freedoms, our sacred values, our citizens' rights. When she was telling us what we could and couldn't buy, remember? You couldn't buy paint and mulch. You couldn't go on a motorboat, but you could go on a kayak. God forbid you touch that gas station pump handle, because you would die of COVID. And she ran on with these draconian measures for months until I had enough, so I decided that I couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. I had to do something about it. So I started Michiganders Against Excessive Quarantine. Just a Facebook group, right? And I went on there and I did a 5-minute little hissy fit video. I don't even remember what I said. All I know is I had a beard, I went on there, I was just mad, I was frustrated. And I went home that night to my wife. My wife looked at me, she said, "Garrett, what did you do?" I said, "Well, I started a Facebook group." And she's like, "Why?" I said, "Because I had to get something off my chest." And that night, 500 people joined my group. And I literally looked at my wife, I said, "Holy cow, there's 500 people that feel just like I do." Because we thought we were alone, didn't we? The silent majority is no longer silent, are we? We're engaged. And that's what President Trump has done for all of us. He has awakened a lot of us. And so that next morning, 5,000 joined the group. That night, 100,000. The second night, 200,000. The third night, 300,000. I looked at my wife and I said, "What the hell did I do?" There was a lot of passion, a lot of engagement. People were angry. So what did we do? We started to direct this unbelievable movement, because that's what we had, folks. We had a movement. And so we started to direct this energy towards who? The legislature. You remember that. Those of you who are with us since the beginning, we started going calls and actions and saying, do not extend the state of emergency. Do not do it. And they finally got a backbone. I guess that's why I'm a chiropractor, right? And they stopped the state of emergency. And then she went unilaterally off that 1945 law for months. So what did we the people do? Well, we organized and we started the Unlock Michigan campaign where we the people hammered down and got 539,000 signatures in 80 days. Who circulated that petition? That's one thing that people always come up and they tell me, like, Garrett, you inspire us. Garrett, you inspire me. Folks, it's backwards. You inspire me. You have to understand this is where the power comes from. It's from all of you. It's not me. It's not any elected official. It's the power of who? We the people. The solutions always have to come from who? We the people. Oh, you got to be louder than that. Who? Who? You got it darn right. And that's what you taught me when we got that citizens petition done. But it was icing on the cake, wasn't it? Because in the beginning of October, the state Supreme Court ruled in favor of who? The legislature. And literally, I was out hunting with my youngest son. He was 10 at the time. It was his first time deer hunting. And that little alert came out on my phone that we won, that they ruled in favor of the legislature and deemed every executive order that this governor has done to all of us was deemed unconstitutional. And I hit him in the chest. And I was like, I gotta go do a Facebook Live. And he's like, Dad, my deer. I said, we'll get your deer later. What a great father I am, right? But he did. He got his deer the next day. But I remember being so happy because I thought we won. We did. I was like, we're done. Because I made a vow to all of you that I would not quit until what? We restored the checks and balances of our beloved state to make sure that no governor could ever do this to us again. And I thought we won. I went out with my wife that night to a restaurant, and I tell the manager, I take off the mask, open up. I never knew in a million years that a governor could weaponize the health department. Never knew that was even possible. So man, it was highs were highs and the lows were lows, weren't they? And so I remember, what am I going to do now? I didn't know. So we're licking our wounds. We just took one into the teeth again. And then last year at this time, because I firmly believe this, folks, if she would have just opened up, just like the rest of the union, because remember, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin were fully open, right? I guess COVID just hates Michigan and never crossed the border, right? And all of us were making our pilgrimage to freedom to go eat with our families in Ohio and Indiana, right? But if she would have just opened up, I don't think anybody could have beat her. But she chose poorly, didn't she? Because last year at this time, I just spoke about this on a radio interview today because I've been tracking the data. You know me, I've been in the data, the hospital data, always trying to give you up-to-date, accurate, truthful information ever since the beginning. So I'm telling you right now, the data is exactly what it was a year ago. The cases and the deaths are almost the same. The same. And what do we hear from her administration right now? Crickets. Crickets. Why? Because last year she was following what's called political science and polling data. But she's not getting that support anymore. So they're staying quiet because the whole purpose of these lockdowns was to do what? Flatten the curve so we don't overwhelm what? The hospital system. And guess what's happening right now? The hospitals are overwhelmed. Last year they're at 73% capacity. This year, today, they're at 82% capacity. And now we're just going to fire thousands of healthcare workers because healthcare workers, the frontline heroes, are now this year's villains, aren't they? And that's why we must stand up and stand tall for medical freedom. We must continue. And I've been standing up for medical freedom for 14 years before even all this happened. You should always have a choice. You should have a choice. I'm not against the mask. I'm not against the vaccine. If you want to do that, that's fine. But those of us who do not want it, we have a choice too, especially when you have what's called natural immunity. Right? And I told all of you ever since the beginning that we were going to be proven right. And the research and the data continues to come out and shows that lockdowns did more harm than good. The mental health crisis that our kids are in, right? And all the adults. Now that we're learning about natural immunity and everything else that's going on, that we all have a great, great chance of surviving this virus. I don't know, is it still over 99% chance of surviving it infected? I don't even know that stat anymore, but I know it's astronomically low to get this and die. Yes, it exists, it's real, it's nasty to the underlying people with medical conditions and over the age of 70, we get all that. You don't quarantine the healthy. Right? And that's why we must continue to call out her narrative, because last year at this time she locked again. She put these restaurants, these poor people, to 25% capacity with the 10 p.m. curfew. Thank you, Nanny Governor. And then, guess what? Yeah, COVID goes to sleep after 10, right? At 10 o'clock. But here's where she lost. Here's where she made a critical mistake. You never, ever mess with mama bears, papa bears, grandma bears, and grandpa bears. You do not. You don't mess with people's kids. The government has no right to tell you how to raise your kid, no right to tell you what you should put on your child, no right to tell you what you should put inside your child. And she made that critical error. She did. And I will call her out from here on out, and I will not let her get away with this. And that's what I talked about today on the radio interview. You demand to know the truth. The people who have lost loved ones and elderly in nursing homes this past year deserve to know the truth. If she, in fact, put COVID-infected people in the nursing homes, we need to know the truth. You deserve to know the truth. Because this governor, she's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't she? Holy cow. When she canceled Thanksgiving and Christmas last year, she went to the inauguration with her 2 kids. Do as I say, not as I do. Then she got her hand caught in the cookie jar, right? Lied to all of us. And I haven't been outside the state of Michigan ever since I went to Israel for business. Not knowing she would get caught in a lie. And 2 weeks prior to that podcast, she flew down on a private jet, didn't she? To go visit her supposedly sick dad, which I have no problem with anybody that wants to go see their loved ones who is diseased, sick, or in trouble. But how many Michiganders does she basically spit in the face of that took that away? Tens of thousands, folks. And this is very personal to me, because my family suffered that same fate. My wife's grandfather was 100 years old last August. Guess what? He had a mild heart attack. Guess what he tested positive for when he went to the hospital? COVID. He got separated from his family for the last 3 months of his life. He was married to his wife for 76 years. The last 3 months of his life, they weren't together. And we always had that kind of, that belief that they were going to die together, holding each other's hands. That's what we thought. Like one was going to die, the next one was going to die in 24 hours. It didn't happen that way. He died alone in the hospital bed. Nobody got to say goodbye. All of your stories, and I'm just saying, I hear hundreds, if not thousands of these stories of how people's businesses got ripped away, how they have not been able to say goodbye, how they have lost their jobs because of this medical garbage that's going on with the vaccine. These are all stories that I hear. These are all stories that I wear in my backpack of responsibility, and I carry them around into my very heart and in my very soul, because we, the people, demand to know the truth now. We want transparency. That's all we want. We're done with the politicians. We're done with the typical politicians. Hey, look, we want real now. We want people who love this country, who love this flag. And the establishment, hey, that's fine. They're supposed to stay out of this until after the primary, but they chose not to, didn't they? They basically put up their candidate, which is fine. It's okay. Oh, we do. Here's why. If anybody wants my support, wants my vote from here on out, I have one question. What the hell did you do in 2020? Did you stand up when it was unpopular to do so? Because those very words that were inked on that piece of paper called the Constitution, your contract with the government? Or did you enforce these lockdowns? Were you out on your Facebook page bragging about how many tickets and how many businesses you shut down? And your answer to that is that I was following orders because I was appointed to the mayor? No, you're a police officer. For those of you who don't know, I went to the police academy. I was going to be a state trooper. You take an oath as a police officer to defend and protect what? The Constitution of these United States. Because I'm telling you right now, if our so-called somebody in office, one of our elected officials, somebody that had some position of leadership or authority would have stood up in the beginning and represented all of you, I would not be standing in front of you here today. I would be supporting that person. But they didn't. So that holds weight with me. That holds extreme amount of weight because I've heard all of your stories. We're going to get through this together. And I'm telling you right now, what you see in this room, the passion you feel, the family that you feel, you're a part of something bigger than self. That's called passion, folks. That's what you're a part of. And folks, as we continue to move this movement, this unbelievable machine forward in a positive, nonviolent way, we'll continue to attract others. Do you know how many Democrats and liberals are joining our movement right now? More and more. Who? Anybody want to raise their hand? Hey, we got it right there. And the reason that is just want the truth. We're done with the division. We do not want to be divided anymore. And that's why my door will always be open for conversation. I don't care if you don't believe everything that I believe in, but you have a great policy, you have a great idea to move this state forward, then I'm going to listen to you. You're not going to change my views on the Second Amendment. You're not going to change my views on being pro-life. However, we can still have conversation, and guess what? If we disagree on some things, I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to attack your business. I'm not going to lose you as a friend, because how many of us have lost friends and family over this garbage? It's insane, right? And that's why I am the candidate for unity now. We will continue to inspire more. And folks, we are going to blaze a trail so wide, so big, so full of hope and inspiration that everybody that hated on us, that doubted on us, they're going to humbly follow. Because we all, as a movement, will be the lantern in the darkness of today's challenges. We will. And I'm telling them I'm getting cut off already. Can I have 5 minutes? All right. You guys want 5 more minutes? Let's talk about how we're going to fix Michigan. Let's talk about some policy. Number one thing that we have to do is we need to inspire businesses to come back here. There was a mass exodus of businesses and families leaving the state of Michigan. Because folks, when businesses are leaving, when families are leaving, that's tax revenue. You understand that? That's property taxes not going to the school systems. We'll get to the school systems here in a second. All right? But we need to inspire a business reawakening. That's what we have to do. So how do we do this as a movement? Well, we have to make Michigan a free state. And that's where I come in. Because no governor will ever have this much power again. No governor will ever be able to weaponize the health department. Because we need to show businesses that they can come here, open up, and be safe, and not with the threat of a lockdown from the health department in the next cold and flu season. If that's one thing that this past year and a half has taught all of us, is government in our everyday lives is a bad, bad thing. So in the first 2 years of our run for office here, when we get in, we're going to cut regulations by 25%. We're going to cut them. Get rid of it. The next thing that we're going to do to inspire more businesses to come back here is we're actually going to honor people's licenses. So if you're licensed in another state, you're going to be welcome to come back to the state of Michigan and open up immediately to earn a living and live the American dream. And then you'll have a year or two to get your license. That's another thing that we're going to do. I am a fiscally conservative businessman. I'm going to run this place like a business. I'm not here to balance the budget. I hate that word, budget. That is your hard-earned, tax-paying dollars. I'm going in there and I'm cutting the budget. Every single year. And the problem is, the Republican problem is not the Democrat. Our spending has went up, I think, 31% over the past 3 years, folks. It's getting out of control. We have to cut the budget. The last thing I'm going to talk about the business awakening that we're going to do is we need to inspire an infrastructure overhaul, an energy infrastructure overhaul. We just lost 11,000 jobs in Kentucky and Tennessee. Did you hear about that? Ford left. We're going to build their electric plant down there. You know the number one reason why? It's too expensive in the state of Michigan with energy. And you all are going to feel the effects of this president, or this so-called president. Usually it takes a president years to screw up a country. This guy's doing it in months, right? We are all going to feel in our pocketbooks this energy crisis that we're feeling right now, guaranteed. So we need to start investing into our energy. Hey, I'm all about a pure Michigan. I'm all about a cleaner planet, but it has to make sense. Solar and wind can complement, but they can't be the driving force. It's nuclear and it's gas, folks. That's what it is. We're going to be so energy independent that we're going to sell our energy to the Democrat-ran states like Illinois and make money off them. Right? That's what we're going to do. Because when we do that, we're going to give what's called jobs. With jobs comes families. With families, people are going to move back. They're going to buy houses. That's what stimulates the economy. It's not rocket science, folks. It's common sense. But we just need a leader with some guts that's finally going to do what's right for the people. And that's what I'm here to do. I can take. I'm going to open it up for several questions because I don't want to take a lot of your guys' time. But here's what I want you to understand. Without all of your support on the ground, boots on the ground, word of mouth, I'm so proud of all of my grassroots warriors that are here tonight. You're bringing people, you're talking to people. Without you, I am nothing. Without you, this movement is nothing. You are the power of this campaign. This is We the People's run for governor. This is We the People's campaign. I'm merely just an expression of all of you, but we need your financial commitment now. I love your support, but we need your financial commitment. We need skin in the game. We have hundreds of thousands of people in our movement. I want 30,000 people to just donate $20 a month. That's it. If you want to donate more, we'll take it. But at a minimum, $20 a month. I'm asking you to sacrifice that one night out with your family. I'm asking you to sacrifice your Netflix membership. I'm asking you to do that. Because if we don't do this, can you imagine another 4 years underneath this governor? No. And what it's going to do? It's worth the $20, folks. Because I've heard the stories of people doing just that. I was humbled at a grassroots fundraiser a week and a half ago when somebody said, I have no money, but I've been collecting cans to become a monthly member. Wow. Cans. If there's a will, there's a way. And you can make it. And I am like two of my staff members here. There's one right there. Where's John at? Raise your hand, John. Right there, John. Thank you. They can connect with you. If you want to become a monthly member, go to those guys. They'll sign you up. If you want to make a donation, go to them. We need your financial commitment because we are going at an unbelievable rate of speed in a positive direction, but we need to keep hammering down, folks. I have time for 5 questions. Who wants to raise it? $1,000 a question.
If somebody has a question, we prefer use the microphone. Julie, we got a question over here. Because we're recording and everybody will be able to hear you better that way.
Came from a law enforcement background and now associate broker with realtors. We were part of the self-employed that got locked down and were hurt, but also friends that still are in law enforcement. My concern is for them and their safety and not being protected and having someone that will stand behind their back. If you are going to be a trooper, I also worked for the state police when I was younger as well as an emergency dispatcher. I understand what they go through, and I think if no one walks in their shoes or understands that, they really do put their life in front of ours. So I'm hoping that you have their back and that we can count on you for something like that.
You will 100% have my back. Law enforcement, all of our men and women who wear that badge, I will always back them. And you're right, the culture with law enforcement right now is hot garbage. And that's what we have, folks. We have a culture problem. We need some discipline again. We need some discipline with these kids. We need to respect our elders. We need to respect the people with the uniform. Hey, there's bad people in every profession. But a small percent does not make the whole, right? It doesn't define the whole. We must 100% back the blue. You don't defund the police, you defund the CDC and Fauci the clown.
Former teacher, so I want to know what you're going to be doing, not only about masks and children being vaccinated, but the whole curriculum situation and the way they're trying to take our children away from us. But my other question is, do you have signs here tonight?
Yes, ma'am, we have signs, and thank you for asking that question. CRT is hot garbage, right? Mandates are hot garbage. We all agree. I'm hoping we can get the mandate stuff situated with the Unlock 2 campaign, with taking the endless state of emergency away from the health department. Is that a cure-all? No. I don't like a 28-day state of emergency, but there's no other petition being circulated right now that's going to hit back at this governor and hit back at the health department. So that's how we deal with the mandates. But once we're in the office, I don't believe in a 28-day state of emergency, folks. I believe that a governor should have unilateral control to save what's called life and limb. Flint water crisis, a tornado, Midland flood, something bad happens like that, you need to make a unilateral decision to save what's called life and limb. But as soon as the legislature can convene and we together can come up with common sense solutions, your state of emergency is over. Your unilateral power is over, and that's what I plan to do in the office. But to answer your question about public schools, look what just happened in Virginia. You know, that's not a battleground state. That was a blue state that turned red. Why? Because you messed with people's kids. We need to get back to the basics in our schools. We do not want your political beliefs in your schools. We want you to teach math, science, the right history, right? But here's how we do this. The parents. You continue to stand up in an empowering way, in a nonviolent, positive way to the school board. You have every right to stand up to those school boards. And if they're not representing you, then get them out and you run for office. Don't, and that's what's happening in this culture of politics. We tend to put our elected officials on a pedestal. There's only one Savior, folks, and that's Jesus Christ. All of you to stand up because the power comes from the local level. We're relying on the state, we're relying on the federal. No, the townships, the counties, that's where the power is. You know why? Because it's the people. You have to get involved. You have to get the right representation in there. And if the school board's not doing it, you vote them out. But all that stuff, if it's still going on, it's over. Now look. When you hear CRTs, their other perspective on why they're teaching, they're like, well, we want to teach, you know, the bad part of the history too, which I agree with. We should teach it all, the good, the bad, the ugly. You know why? Because the United States isn't perfect. We have scars. We have some really ugly scars, don't we? We don't erase those scars. Those scars are there to what? To teach. To make sure that future generations don't make the same mistake, because that's called insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, kind of like how our governor governs the state. All right? So that is why we need to inspire the parents, and you guys are doing a hell of a job. And it's not the teachers' fault, folks. The teachers, the majority of these teachers love these kids. You know what problem it is? It's the administration, and it's the teachers' union. That's what the problem is. And that's why, whenever a teachers' union is basically influencing the CDC, their decision on when to lock up, that's when they went overboard. And I'll handle the teachers' union, trust me. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
So you say you want to cut regulation by 25%. That's a pretty vague statement.
It is a huge statement.
How do you plan to do that? Do you look at something like Trump's plan to cut 2 policies for everyone you want to implement, or do you have a different idea?
Yeah, so basically, this is what I'm going to bring to this. Common sense. Now look, we don't want rats in the kitchen, right? That makes sense to me. We don't want bugs in our food. There's got to be some type of regulation in there to make sure that, together with the business owners, to make sure that they stay afloat. And that's what the health department was designed originally. I went around and talked to the health department when they were enforcing these lockdowns, and they were ticketing people, and they did not want to do this. They're like, I got into this to help businesses stay afloat, not shut them down.
Right.
We're put in a horrible position. The health department is there for a reason. But to answer your question, you just look at it. Governmental overreach, what's happening in a lot of professions, and I know it affects a lot of you in this room, is the over-regulation, the over-licenses. You need a license with the township, the county, the state, the federal. It's too much overreach. We have to limit government. Go Ronald Reagan said it best. It's very easy for government to get in our everyday lives. It's hard as hell to get them out, isn't it? The most 2 terrifying words in the English language is when the government comes to your door and say, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Right? Ronald Reagan said that too. Yes, sir.
Garrett, welcome back to Waterford.
Thank you, sir.
I had the pleasure to meet you in office, and you've come a long way. Matthew, thank you for bringing Garrett tonight. I want to give you... Garrett, I'm a Floridian now, and I'm a proud Floridian because we have a real governor there. I love your passion. I love your ideas. You sound to me kind of like a mini DeSantis, a little bit like from, we're not yet. And what I want to ask you is that in order to move forward, you're going to need some endorsements. You're going to need some of these big people within the Republican Party that are actually like-minded with us. Have you a plan for that? Have you gotten any endorsements from some of the big people up there that could really help to drive it?
So right now we're on Trump's schedule, the scheduling team they call it, right? So I'm going to go out there. Here's where we're making statements right now, because in the past, these grassroots candidates never could do what? Fundraise, right? Fundraising is the most horrible part about this game. Why do you need to fundraise? Because you need to get your butt on TV, all right? So what did we do over the past 2 quarters is we made a statement with our fundraising. Over $1.1 million in 6 months. 98% came from within the state of Michigan. 97% was under the amount of $200. What does that tell you? That's grassroots, baby. Right? I think we're at over 21,000 individual donations. There's not another campaign that is up to where we're at right now. As a matter of fact, we out-fundraised every other candidate except for the establishment's hand-picked candidate. We outraised every other candidate combined. We are on everybody's radar right now. All right? We are. However, we don't want to be a one-trick pony. We got to continue to hammer down and continue to make statements. And over the next several weeks, we're going to continue to make statements because we have a lot of things in the pipeline to get these endorsements. But everybody's kind of just sitting back and saying, okay, is he for real? In that first quarter, we made a statement, 620 grand. And they're like, huh, can he do it again? Next quarter, combined 1.1 million. Now we're on everybody's radar. The things that we're doing right now, according to my campaign team, because I don't know what I don't know in this horrible game, nobody's ever seen what we're doing right now. Nobody. Never been done.
I've got the last question, so thank you for being here. I've talked to my state reps and state senators. No one knows how many illegals have been brought into Michigan, nor do we know how many illegal children are going to be in our school system. Now, I know it costs 2, 3, 4 times the amount of money to educate somebody who is a non-English speaking student. Do you have any idea how the influx of thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of illegal immigrant children into our citizen will affect the education of the citizens of Michigan?
It's going to be detrimental, folks. And that's why, hey, look, I've always said this time and time again, it's always darkest right before sunrise, right? And it's going to get a little darker, trust me. You can't do what the government has done over the past year and a half and not have horrible consequences in our economy, in our school systems, and everything else. And that's why this next election is so important, that we have to make sure that we win in 2022, not for only our state, but as this state, as the leader of the state, and all of you together as the village, we must hold the line for 2024 when we get our country back. Because we are one election cycle away from losing our republic, folks. We are. We're right there. The enemy is at the gates. And this is all of our fault. We have all fallen asleep on the watch. I'm talking to myself in the mirror right now. But we must dig our heels in the ground and say never again. You build the damn wall at the southern border. You build it. That stops the influx. I'm all about legal immigration. That's why there's entrances in the wall. Come over here legally. But what they're doing right now, those are just votes. That's why they don't want voter ID. That's why Governor Whitmer vetoes all the great legislation that they're trying to pass to make our elections better. No system is perfect. We must build upon it. We must adapt. We must improvise. We must overcome. But we have a governor pushing a political narrative. That is why, from here on out, you must all be financially committed. You must be supporting the candidate. If it's not our campaign, you better get behind somebody, because we're all in this together. Because whoever wins the primary will have my 100% backing. That's just me. Because we all want the same thing, is make sure that Whitmer is one and done. So God bless you, God bless the state of Michigan, and God bless the United States. Thank you,